Music Talk, a new show here on WSRadio.com. And Sam Kadura, how you doing? Sam Kadura is my partner, and he just turned me up.
You know what?
Turn me on, dead man.
Great tune. You know what? You're not on the yellow microphone, and I got moved.
Oh, I'm on the green microphone.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's okay. You can stay on that.
Should I be on this and stay on it?
Yeah, since you're on it already, you might as well stay on it. Let me put my headphones on.
The opening of our legendary show is off to a train wreck start.
Not really. Not really. You know, Halloran's on his way in on a motorcycle.
Yay!
So,
all right, on a Harley, I bet.
I'm not sure what he rides, but
From Milwaukee.
Let me get my level set
and coming in, our super special guest. Keep in mind, Halloran was our main guest last week, and he's back by popular demand this week.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And he's brought a good friend, the guy who hired him in the beginning at 91X.
How cool. Who's that?
Mad Max Tolkoff.
I know the name well. All right.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
He's a filmmaker. He's been in radio. He's done tons of stuff, programmed WFNX in Boston.
You know what? I think I remember about a year ago, I remember that name. There was a clip or a movie of some type about saving the music industry or fixing the music industry.
How to fix the music industry.
And is that the same Max
That is
Tolkoff?
Max Tolkoff, same guy.
Oh, I remember that video.
He's with some legendary people in that film. Some people I've worked with before.
Oh, how cool.
Max is a writer, too. He's written many things, and I've known him over the years. I've known him since the 90s. And Halloran as well, who will be dropping by. Max is, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
You know, last week I was talking like off the mic while Halloran was on the mic, and he sounded big. He sounded real bigger than me.
Of course, because you have to be on the mic to sound big.
Right. Now I was off to the side.
Like this, I'm going to sound like a squirrel.
Yeah, my head was turned to the side, and so you could barely hear my voice. And now Max Tolkoff enters the room. Yes.
Hey,
so
all right.
We'll have him set up with headphones and everything, and we'll just get going in a minute here. And I am really excited, Max. I even brought a magazine with you in it. Oh Remember this one, VA?
Yeah.
It was the tribute to San Diego almost 20 years later. 83 was the year, right?
Yeah, January of 83 was the year.
That's when 91X, you flipped the switch. Tell us about that,
Yes,
Max.
well, you know, I was tasked with going down to Tijuana with a box full of vinyl. Both
in the good old days.
Yeah, 12 inches and 7 inches. And they said, all right, you're going to be the one to kick off the format at 5 in the afternoon. I'm like, oh, my God, what? So they load me into my car, which at that time was a 74 Chrysler Newport. The kind of car you need for Tijuana, by the way, because nothing will stop it. And it's a gigantic beast. So I'm driving down there on the 5 South, heading for the border. And in the back of the car is all the music we're going to sign on with. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, this would be a bad time for a flat tire. It would be a bad time to go off the road. It would be a bad time to just, you know, it's because you can't just walk into the studio. You have to drive 40 minutes down the road into Mexico to get to the air station. I mean, to get to the to the studio. So, yeah, I was a little nervous.
Right. So did you have to, you know, deal with border situations, you know, like customs or any of that?
Only coming back.
Okay.
Yeah, going down, it's like, hey, come on. They just wave you in. Come on, more. Keep going. On the way back, it's, you know, a 2-hour wait.
Yeah, I bet.
But going down was easy. And then I think I had an intro cart, and it was the general manager at the time, John Lynch, who had a message.
Yes, John Lynch Sr., right? A football player.
Not
Pittsburgh Steeler, right?
The football player's dad.
Yeah, right.
And he was just
the current junior is general manager of the San Francisco 49ers.
Is he really?
Yes, he is.
Wait, John Lynch Jr.?
Yes, is.
Holy cow.
And senior, I guess, owns what, the 690 here? Sports
you know,
station?
I don't know. I've sort of lost
he's
track.
a sports, something Americas.
Yeah.
Is the name of his thing. Something of the Americas. Anyway, we'll get into that in another show, in a deeper show about Mr. Lynch.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting back to the story here about...
well, then, you know, so we had a cart, and then I just came out after the intro and said something like, because what happened was Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven was the very last song we played.
Because it was an AOR station, right?
Yeah.
It didn't really compete. It was a third-place AOR station in the market.
Yes. It didn't start that way, because the guy that was programming the station was my old program director from KBPI in Denver. This really dates me. I mean, we're going back into
70s.
We're going back into the 70s. So
when I was in high school, by the way.
Oh my God! So the guy that was the genius behind our success at KBPI, and we're talking in the 70s, an AOR station that went to #1 in the market with no contesting, no promotions, no nothing.
Right.
It was basically just, hey, how you doing? And here's a block of Fleetwood Mac. And this is where block party weekends were started, by the way. So and we didn't do them all the time because you only did it when you were surveyed, which was not all the time in Denver back then. I think there were like two surveys a year, or maybe even one survey a year. I don't remember.
Yeah.
So
Sacramento was like that.
Was it two?
Yeah, back
For
in
how long?
In the 70s till the mid 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long were you there? You were there for a long time.
I started in '84 out of Sac State as an intern. Sac State was where Rick Carroll went. Woo! He's the guy who started the rock of the '80s with KROQ and all that. And with 91X, you guys signed on with them.
Yeah, that's right. So
just to let you know, I was 84 to 89 at Quad as a top 40 station. They fired my ass like they always do to anybody, right?
Yeah.
When they want to make changes. A new PD came in and all that, and I was MD. And then they brought me back 2 years later when they realized I knew a lot about alternative music, and they wanted to go that way.
Did you have a consultant, or did you guys just do it on your own?
Off and on we dabbled in that world. Like we talked with indie music promoters, but we didn't do the consultant thing, the official signing a deal.
So wait a minute. So when you did this, you were just doing it yourself with no roadmap.
I was the guy.
You were the guy.
PD/MD. For a while, there was Jerry Cagle above all of us.
Oh, really?
He was like station manager. And then he went to do Album Network's thing, Network 40. And that's when I took over the station, 93 as a PD, and then till 96.
Yeah, okay. And a long time.
I think you were at FNX at the time. Or
could be. I went to
or
FNX.
maybe R&R, maybe.
No, R&R was 20, was in the aughts. That was, I think, 02 to 04.
Oh, okay.
FNX was 89.
Okay.
It was 89
Oh, that's
to,
right.
94.
That's when Kevin Stapleford became PD of 91X,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah, so you were PD from, what, 83 to 89?
83 to 89.
Okay.
And then whatever happened after. No, then it was Trip Reeb after that.
Okay, right. But briefly, right?
Yeah, but he came in as the OM. I was the PD. They wanted me to stay. And there was a really awkward conversation because I had found out that they were going to do this. They never offered me the opportunity to be the OM, by the way. They wanted to hire somebody over me at 91X to be the OM because they wanted sort of a suit type, and they didn't trust me, or they didn't like
slicker
me.
Presentation.
Something like that. They didn't want to argue with me anymore. So this is when I found out that they were going to bring in Trip Reeb to be the OM.
Yeah.
And then they claimed that they wanted me to stay and be the PD under Trip. And I said, no, I think it's time for me to go. But I left some advice for Trip. The last thing I said to him was, hey, listen, I don't know what you're going to do about production, image production, but you got to get this guy, Kevin Stapleford, back from the local TV station that he went to be the copywriter at. I forget what it was. But I said, Trip, you need Kevin Stapleford. He's going to be your guy. And that's what he did. To his credit, he hired Stapleford back from TV.
Okay.
Brought him back into 91X, and the rest is history.
Stapleford, he did the imaging for a while, the station voice of 91X.
Yeah, well, it was weird because he came out of college. I don't remember if it was UCSD or San Diego State.
I think he went to like UCSD and a year at UCLA.
Okay. So
according to this magazine.
After college, he was just some guy working the request lines.
Okay.
And he would go into the production studio and just fool around at the end of the day or in the middle of the night. And he started dropping things on my desk, and also the music director at the time, I think it was Jim Gilero. And Kevin was just goofing around in there. He didn't know how to do anything. He didn't know how to operate the equipment, nothing. And so he kept doing these little things, and he would leave them on my desk, and they were terrible, terrible, terrible. And then like 7 or 8 months later, he started dropping things on my desk that were like, wow, that's interesting. That could be cool. Oh, wow. And then he did a full-on bit I think it was like the sheep people. And it was like people that went, I'm sheep people. Yeah. The way he did it was so funny, though. So we started to put his stuff on the air as either fake spots or image production, and he became really good at it. And he became, because it's always been my feeling that if you're doing image production for a place, you're the production director, and you're especially an image production director, if you can take direction and figure out how you're going to deliver the image of this radio station over the air, right? If you're going to be responsible for crafting this thing, then I think that you have the ability to be the program director. Now, you may not have the experience, but I feel that if you understand the image of a station or the way that it's supposed to sound, the vibe, whatever it is, I feel like you should be able to program it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense or no?
Yeah, it sounds like a visionary has to do it. Someone who has some kind of vision that knows how to move, content from one moment to the other and keep it flowing.
Right. I mean,
especially music.
Yeah, and you sat in the chair, so I don't know, what was the production thing like at Quad?
We used old like reel-to-reels, and it was hilarious sometimes because we'd be out machines. The owner, he was super well off, but he didn't really always have everything in top condition.
Yeah.
And so sometimes our production room would be down several machines. We had several, tape decks. Like
but who's
Ampex.
doing production? Were you doing it?
Oh, not me. I was not. That was not my forte. I like production. I like doing it more as a musician on my own at home.
Yeah.
But I like doing, editing, splicing back then in the 80s was fun because I like doing interviews. And I was the original public service director like from 84 on, and then that led to becoming PD. But anyway, I've always thought of the imaging and all that is very important, but just more like icing on the cake.
Sure.
The cake is the music and the personalities.
Yeah, obviously, yes, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. But you need these, things that don't sound like normal rock radio.
Yeah.
So.
Why does rock radio all sound the same like the past 10 or 20 years? Like, the same voices sounding very tough in your face. You better listen to us, not those other guys.
You know what? It's probably that bro dude mentality. It's like, hey, bro dude, yeah, whoa, woohoo, hey, so beeper chain. And by the way, I think it's an alternative too. I think the production's very boring.
Yeah.
I want me and Sparky, when he comes by, we do our other podcast. One of the elements, one of the topics in the coming weeks is going to be what happened to image production and an alternative. Because you're right, it all sounds like zips and zaps, and it sounds like top 40, whatever it is. Nobody's done anything interesting.
Right.
So,
or new or innovative.
Or new or innovative of any kind in the format. It sounds like, and you know where you can get your inspiration from? I don't know if you watch much TV, but if you watch...
Not anymore. I watch the Super Bowl online, usually.
Geez. If you watch Viceland is, Vice Media, they do that show Vice on HBO, and they have their own channel. If you watch a little bit of that, you will get essentially what alternative radio was like in the 80s in terms of like how off, the imaging is.
Yeah.
Their image production is amazing. Their attitude is amazing. Viceland is like an alternative station from the early days.
I'll check it out.
So, so the production these days, nobody's doing anything interesting. So last year, after watching Kittens on YouTube or whatever it was, I saw these ASMR videos. Where they're going like, hi, can you hear that? I'm rubbing the microphone. Okay, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you go to a typical ASMR video, it has like 2 million followers.
Okay.
Millions of people are into this. To the point where, anyway, let me back up. So last year I went, oh, wow, this is rife with possibilities for production. Take this whole ASMR thing and do something with it. So everybody thought I was bonkers, even Halloran, who's, Mr. Idea Man. So what happens? This year at the Oscars, I think it was, Michelob Ultra runs this commercial that is all ASMR. The commercial's like this. Hi. And somebody's making a noise.
Right.
Hi, Michelob Ultra. And that's the commercial.
Oh, my God.
Bam.
That's it.
Yeah, So
no wonder they
clearly-
had to get bought out by a multinational.
Well, all I'm saying is that somebody was paying attention in the ad agency, and they realized that there's this huge audience for this ASMR thing, and so they do one on national TV. And I thought, you know what? I'm telling you, this is what alternative radio should be doing: is finding different things to give them more creative juices, because it's not happening.
Okay, it's funny. You just mentioned advertising. You know about that because you worked on Madison Avenue, right?
I did.
Tell us about that a
indeed.
little bit.
Well, I worked on Madison Avenue. I was a madman. I worked
New York City that's Manhattan, right?
Oh yeah, I was on the building was on 50th and Madison. It was the KLM Dutch building because KLM had their whole offices on the ground floor, and there are other ad agencies in there like BBDO and us. So I was at ACNR Advertising, and we had Seiko, SD Lauder, Olympia Business Machines, Bigelow Carpets, Arrow Shirts. Had all that kind of stuff. Oh, we had a piece of the Hertz business and a piece of the 3M business, Maxell. We did a little work for Maxell.
Wow.
So, I was there for about 5 years, and I worked on a lot of campaigns for Hertz car sales. They were selling used cars at that point. I didn't do the OJ thing, but I did a lot of the Seiko stuff. And one of the interesting things about the Seiko stuff is that at that time in the late 70s, digital watches were just coming out, these multi-function things. And Seiko had created one that was half it had digital works, but it was an analog face, right? So they didn't have any technical writers there, and I was as close to a technical writer as they had. Sorry, somebody's calling.
Let them know we're doing a very, important show.
It's Halloran. So one day I get this package on my desk, and it's a multifunction digital watch with an analog face and a thick stack of papers. And what they wanted me to do was get together with an art director and create an instruction manual for this watch because nobody really knew how to do it. And what I got was a stack of papers was loosely translated from Japanese instructions that made no sense whatsoever. So I had to sit there and play with the watch for a few days, and then I sat down with the art director, and between he and I created the copy, right? And then I also had to write the descriptions of the art. So there was an arrow pointing to winding the stem this way, and so I'd have to write the description. So I actually had to create an entire manual of how to work this watch from scratch.
Wow, like a technical writer.
Right. And then it became the template for all other Seiko digital watches.
Wow.
So if you bought a Seiko digital watch somewhere between 79 and 84.
Listen up, kids.
I wrote the manual. I wrote that manual.
Yeah, he changed the world with that.
I did.
So that manual, that saved many, many people from nightmares and headaches.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's awesome.
At the same time that I was doing that, I was still doing some part-time radio out in Long Island at WRCN in Riverhead, which was kind of a rock station at that time. And then I was also going to Philadelphia occasionally because my friend was the PD of
WDRE?
MMR.
Oh, okay.
And John Bradley. So he was at MMR, and he goes, hey, listen, you want to come down and do some shifts? I go, yeah. So one weekend I'd go out to Long Island. The next weekend I'd take the train down to Philly, and I'd do a shift on MMR, and right there in Rittenhouse Square. And then I'd go sort of back and forth. So I sort of kept my hand in while I was still on Madison Avenue. But then eventually it was like, I can't stand this anymore. New York winters suck, and I want to go back out west.
So was it Fred Jacobs who brought you back out west?
No. It was the guy from KBPI, Frank Felix.
Okay.
Who is now at 91X. He had moved from Denver to San Diego, and I was getting tired of the New York thing. So I called Frank, and he goes, well, I'm only the consultant here, but I'll talk to the PD, and we'll see. So nothing happened at first. So for the next year, I called 91X every morning from New York, like at around noon, sort of like 9 a.m. San Diego time. Yeah. I'd call, ask for the PD, Jim Gilero, and I'd ask him if there's any work. There's nothing. For almost a year, I did that.
One lucky day.
Right. The long distance charges were insane. So one lucky day, I call, and not expecting anything. By this time, the receptionist knows my name. We're having chats. It's like great. And I get to know all these people. And she goes, oh, and Jimmy's here, and he wants to talk to you. I go, oh, great. He puts me on the phone with Jimmy, and he goes, hey, the weirdest thing happened. The guy who's on last night, our night jock, when he got off the air, he left a note in my box saying, "I can't do this anymore. Thanks, I'm leaving." And he left after that shift. So the next morning, the PD walks in and he goes, "Oh my God, I need a jock for immediately." So I happened to call on the day that he needed a jock. That's how fortuitous that was. It almost never happened. And he goes, "How soon can you get out here?" And I said, "Well, pretty soon. I'm going to drive and I'm going to need a couple of weeks. So figure about 2 weeks tops, because I was coming out of my motorcycle. I didn't have a car at that point. So I said, give me 2 weeks. And that was at the beginning of August. And I had a break.
82, right?
82, yeah, summer of 82. And I had a breakdown in the middle of the Navajo Indian Reservation in Arizona.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had to leave the bike, hike to a trading post. It's a long story.
Give us the short version we can talk mostly music here.
The short version is the guy that ran the trading post was married to a Navajo. They had a nephew who spoke no English. He only spoke Navajo, but he had a pickup truck. And we went back down the road to get my bike, which, by the way, was still sitting there unmolested 4 hours later. We pick up my bike, we put it in the back of the pickup truck, and then he proceeds to drive me into Flagstaff.
Yeah.
We're north of Flagstaff by a couple of hours, and it's getting dark. And all of a sudden, he starts to haul ass. Like, we're speeding through the desert. There's nobody around. And I'm saying to him, "Why are we going so fast?" And again, he didn't speak much English. All he said were horses, because there's no fences. The wild horses at night roam around.
Really?
And it's very dangerous.
Across streets?
Across the roads.
Wow.
And motorhomes have hit a horse and destroyed the whole motorhome.
Wow.
So it's important.
Giant horses.
He said, you got to get off the reservation by nightfall, or else it's dangerous to drive at night.
Wow.
So we do that. We get to Flagstaff, buy him a couple of beers at the bowling alley. I went to bed. He went wandering around town to relatives, drunk, until 4 a.m. with my bike in the back of his pickup truck. Long story short.
You can make a movie out of it.
I spent a few days in Flagstaff waiting for my bike to be repaired, which entailed going to Phoenix to a junkyard to get, I had a shaft drive on the back. That's a long story.
How many parts did it?
One.
Okay.
Now, this is again in the 70s when Honda motorcycles, big touring bikes, there's not a lot of support. But the funny thing about this little sojourn in Flagstaff, and I had to spend a few days and rent a car. One night, in the middle of downtown, they'd blocked off an area, and there are lights all around, and somebody's making fake rain on Main Street, okay? And there are all these, they're making a movie of some kind, and I see coming down the street this, screwed-up-looking station wagon with a rocking chair on top that had a dummy in it. And that's when they were filming the scene in National Lampoon's Vacation.
Oh, cool.
With what's her name, the dead aunt or the grandmother on the roof.
I saw that movie
driving.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
So I caught a little bit of that filming unknowingly in Flagstaff back in whatever the hell it was. So in the meantime, the people at 91X are like, this guy's not showing up. He's not coming, is he? He's late and he's not coming. This whole thing was ridiculous. And I kept assuring everybody, I'm on my way. I swear I'm on my way. I'll be there in a few days. So I show up, I think, mid-August, and that was what happened. I was on my bike, and I kept using my bike for another 6 months. I didn't have a car for the next 6 to 8 months.
All right. You weren't PD right away, right?
No, just
a year later you became PD. Right?
Yeah, I was nothing right away. I was just the night jock.
Yeah.
Right. And then when we switched formats in January, then I became the MD.
Okay.
And Jim Gilero was the PD.
But didn't Trip Reeb enter the picture at that point, and Rick Carroll?
No, it was Rick Carroll. John Lynch called Rick Carroll, and he had heard about what was going on at KROQ in the early 80s. And so that summer, I guess, he had already had plans, because I showed up in August of 82, and we flipped formats in January of 83. It was only 6 months later. John had heard about what was going on, so he hired Rick, and then Rick became our consultant. And he essentially duplicated KROQ in 91X.
And they were a mix of modern rock and classic rock, kind of?
Not
a little bit.
Well,
Didn't
yes.
he play the Beatles and Stones and Zeppelin?
He did at KROQ. It was very surprising. And We didn't, though.
Halloran on the way.
Oh, good. We didn't, though. We didn't, because we already had KPRI and KGB.
Right.
And so, but there was very little adjustment from KROQ to 91X in the early days.
So you could.
We took their music keys. Rick just sort of copied them and sent them down.
And your clocks. I have your clock.
Yeah,
in
the
here.
clocks, right. Those were his creation.
It looked like the jock had a choice. It looked like there were 3 songs for every slot for a song, and that the jock had a choice.
Yeah, every hour at KROQ, and I think we duplicated for a while, every hour there was a jock choice. And he had built that into
and
the
that
wheel.
was the excitement, the thrill, the person's orgasm of that hour, right?
Because the music we were already playing, which was unheard of to anybody, was not exciting enough. We needed a jock choice just to sort of bust out of the corporate rock thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it worked. It worked because everyone, I swear, at Quad in Sacramento, people would come from L.A. and they would try to teach us what KROQ was doing or what Live 105 in San Francisco was doing. They'd tell us, no, you're supposed to do it this way. Like, no, we're doing it our way. We love those stations.
Because you knew what Sacramento was like.
Right.
And
growing up there all my life.
Yeah, so you knew that being a clone of some big market station was not going to work in your situation,
right? Because Sacramento at that time was a more mom and pop. Now it's a more corporate town, but it was very mom and pop back then. Halloran.
Yeah, there he is.
Thanks to, hey, you're off your crutches finally.
He had crutches?
Right on. Yeah, last week you
what
had
happened?
crutches.
Why did you have crutches?
Well, motorcycle story, right?
I like your shameless plug. I like your Carhartt jacket. It's very nice. Has it got a pocket up there?
Why is that shameless?
Is it lined with anything?
Is your mic up yet? Is his mic? Is Mike's mic up?
It's,
We're going to call
I
you
hear it.
Halloran from now on because, like you said,
Halloran?
Mike. Is Mike's mic up?
Mike,
There's too many
check.
mics.
Mike.
Too many mics in it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mics.
I was watching a new sitcom somewhere. I forget what it was, and they're wearing all Carhartt clothing, and the logo is like really bright up there. Like every piece of clothing they have is a Carhartt shirt of some kind. And I thought, well, there's product placement.
Test.
Check. Uno dos.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Sam, for making me sound like I have
Where's
balls. Sam's back there. Sam's hiding from all of us. That's right. I'm turning my buzzer off, my ringer off.
Yeah, because
so,
you called me. By the way, you called me. Okay. And my phone is ringing while I'm talking to Alex.
Yeah.
I know, but I have to wait for the delay. I figured that you're the one that left Los Angeles super late.
What time did you leave L.A.?
I left at 11:15.
Well, that should have been enough time, right?
Should have
get
been.
here at 3 or 2.
Yeah,
whatever.
except that it's Saturday. I'm
Oh,
like an
right,
idiot. I forgot.
right. But I thought traffic would be busier the other way, maybe, like to L.A.
Of course, no, traffic is always busier in the way I'm not going. So whenever I'm coming south, it's flying up north and vice versa. There is this choke point at San Clemente now, which just kills
the
everybody.
place with the nuclear warheads.
No,
and all
beyond
that.
San Onofre, that was fine, but for some reason, they can't handle the curves or something. I don't know.
Nixon lived in that. He probably went to that beach every now and then, right?
Yeah, in his black shoes.
I'm sure he did.
What's this? I can't read it.
You can't.
Do I
read
need
it
to read it?
No, you don't need to read it.
I'm not.
No. I'm not receiving text. No, the thing I'm about to send you. That's what I want you to read. Which I'm not out loud. I just want you to read that. Right?
I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. You never do.
Hey,
John,
look, here's
John, and
picture of Halloran as a hippie in the 80s, right here.
Where?
Right here.
That was the 90s.
Was that the 90s?
That was the 90s.
Okay.
Do
you want to know how
the more
Michael,
grungy area?
Alex, do you want to know
grungy
how
era.
Michael arrived at 91X?
Let's see, 86, right?
Yeah, but do you know how it happened?
I read the story in here, and this is what happened according to this story.
What does it say in there?
That Mike wrote. He wrote it himself.
Oh, what does it say? Let's hear it, Alex.
all
What
right.
does it say?
I arrived in a thunderclap.
It says
What does
that
it say?
in 86, that was the first year he started tracking you down. Right? No, 84 was the first year he started calling you, I guess.
Could be.
And then you invited him. You wanted to give him a gig for $40 a month.
No, 40 a week. $10 an hour. $10 an hour.
So he held out for 2 years until one day. You had been on the air in Detroit?
That's how I met him. I went to one of the new music seminars in New York when that's when they used to happen. And he and I think it was
It was a show someplace.
Like Therapy was playing.
Something like
band.
that. And you literally walk up to me and stand right in my line of sight, in my face, and you introduce yourself. But here's how the whole thing happened. Back in those days, you actually listened to your consultant.
Hey, I made $3.15 an hour back then.
Oh, very good.
Before California raised the minimum wage.
I think I was making $1,000 a month. That's what I was making. That was all it was. So anyway, we weren't really looking for jocks, but back in those days, Fred Jacobs was our consultant.
Yes.
So
and he
what
might be on
happened
this
was
show,
that after the first year of Rick Carroll, the ratings tanked, started going back down.
Really?
John
83,
Lynch,
83, and then 84. It's
about
10.
84 and a half. KROQ was starting.
K-pop in Sacramento, which Carroll consulted, it was gone by 84.
Really?
It lasted 6 months in 83.
So
sounded good though.
So the ratings started to go down because Ricky was consumed by just Eurosynth dance music, which is not really San Diego. You kind of get away with that in L.A., but not in San Diego. We need to be more rock.
You were playing Depeche Mode, Heaven 17, Erasure, and those kind of bands, OMD, and Halloran wanted you to play You Gotta Fight for Your Right to Party.
No, that was you're close. You're close.
I'll let him tell that story because that one's for like 10 years.
It took a while to convince you, right?
Well, what happened was Fred Jacobs says to me, he goes, listen, I don't know if you need any more jocks, but there's this guy who did a lot of alternative stuff in Detroit. And he was on, what was that, DTX or whatever the stupid stations are.
I was on a bunch of stations.
He was on a bunch of stations.
DET, LBS,
and so Fred goes,
Wheels,
if you need a good jock, he would be a
on
great jock, right?
Who?
Halloran. Fred Jacobs.
So I didn't mean who the way you said who when I said Rob Tonkin. Now, I know you love that guy because you're the only one who mentioned him in this thing, and you guys work closely together, so I know
Too closely.
He's my guest in 2 weeks. So
Good.
Go ahead.
Ask him about the time I knocked out his contact lens and tried to murder him in the men's room with 91X. Seriously, this is how we got to be good friends.
Okay.
At first it was bad, and I tried to kill him, and the salespeople, even John Lynch, had to hold me back.
The owner.
Oh, God. You weren't here yet, were you?
Luckily. No, I wasn't.
You weren't there
Had I
yet?
known that, I would have never come.
But you know Rob, right? Rob,
of course I know Rob. Everybody knows
So anyway,
Rob.
so here's what Fred says to me. He goes,
I went to high school with him, everybody. So did Sam.
Did you really?
So
yeah,
sorry.
same high school radio station.
Wow.
I'm so
Rob,
sorry.
me, Sam.
So
And
Fred,
actress Jane Sibbett, who was in the TV show Friends.
as what?
She was the lesbian.
Right,
in the
wife of Schwimmer's character
first
for a
couple
couple
seasons.
seasons.
Oh, okay. All right.
Back to the story.
All right, so Fred goes, you like this guy. He sounds like the format. So one problem, though, he got into a little bit of trouble at one of the stations there. It was bad. He did something terrible, and they fired him. I go, oh, all right, it's fine. Thanks. Yeah. So, but, his...
Timeout. You seen which jock, which slot? What time period are we talking about? Are we talking about... the era when everything started to change, like
it was, what was it, 84, 85? 85? When did you get hired? 86.
Well, see, this is what I love about the elderly. They tend to put a different timeline together as they go. I met him way earlier than that. I knew about him. I had left a situation.
I didn't talk to you until Fred brought your name up because I had no idea who you were.
No, you did, because I met you in New York at a new music seminar.
But that was after Fred.
Yeah. You told that story earlier, didn't you?
It was after Fred brought up your name.
Okay, I had not been fired from a station. I left DET, but I was going to the new music seminars when I was at LBS. LBS was owned by Percy Sutton, who owned the Apollo Theater
I'm talking
and
about
BLS.
The fire extinguisher incident.
That was way after I met you. Way after I met you. Because I had already flown out. I had driven a car out. I drove my drug dealer's car out to San Diego and applied for a job at the end of 84. 84 into 85. You took me down to Mexico. He doesn't remember this part.
No, I remember this.
I remember
all this.
That was in 84. I went back to Detroit 85 and then halfway through 86.
All I'm trying to say is
he had an opening.
Fred recommended you, and I couldn't say no. So I had to basically hire you because Fred recommended you.
Because he had kick-ass numbers, right?
He had nothing.
I had no
Except
job
that
at that
he
point.
invented the Beastie Boys.
Okay.
And he came from Detroit. By the way, have you guys watched the first episode of Punk yet?
What is
on
that?
Showtime.
Oh, I
the
haven't seen that.
documentary starts with Detroit. The whole thing is about MC5 and Detroit.
Wow,
the
that's
whole
awesome.
first episode. It's all you.
That's awesome.
It's all Detroit.
It's all Detroit, which is you. You're Detroit.
I've been here for 33 years, and I'm still Detroit.
Yeah, but you still talk like it. Everybody says, "Oh, you're still talking about Detroit." The big Detroit. Yes.
I got the first week I arrived. Tom Perry, who's still a good friend of mine, who was the phone op at the time. He was doing the Tuesday thing. He was the phone op. He would answer the phones, and he would call up and go, "Okay, here's your request. Send the Boingo out to Jennifer and Miramar and blah 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 blah. And don't talk about Detroit. Nobody cares." And then he hangs up the phone. I'm like, what the fuck was that about? You know, like, why the hell would he basically? And then I realized afterwards there were so many people who had left Detroit that lived here, but nobody cared where you came from. They just wanted you to become. And as I look across the parking lot here, what is it? Can you read that? What that sign says? Past that thing, it says supernatural sandwiches. It says integrative or integrative wellness, cigar and wine, Lee's haircut, commercial, and then it says Motor City Deli.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yep. And CKO boxing and massage. I'm going to go over and get a sandwich and a massage at the same time. So his timeline's a little bit screwed up, but I'd met him at a new music seminar. Fred may have brought, after I left DET, when I was managing Rhythm Corps.
It could be. I don't know.
Because
no,
it
it was
was
early. It was early on. It was 83 or 84.
Yeah, it was 83, 84. But then I met you because I came out. You took me down, and then a year and a half later, Pam Wolf left, and that's when he officially offered me the job, the real job.
Oh,
Okay.
full-time job.
For $24,000 a year, which was just super.
That was
because,
high back then,
Wait, so
right?
you didn't come out and do part-time at first?
No, because you offered me part-time.
Part-time,
When
and
I
that was
came
no,
out, you
yeah.
said, this is what I can offer you. Sunday nights, you can do 6 to 10. It's $10 an hour, and it's $40 a week if you want to move. And I basically couldn't for that, for
Right.
obvious
How-
reasons.
How could anyone?
I would have to go work wind up working in a gas station, as Frank Zappa says. So I've decided not to do that, but I went back to Detroit, slugged it out I went through Wheels, the original version of Wheels with Podell, John O'Leary, and all these other amazing people, and worked for Lee Arnold. Lee Arnold hired me.
Oh yeah, I know Lee Arnold. I want him
love-
on this show at some
I-
point.
you gotta
Except
get
he'll
him
end
on
up
the
talking
Wait,
the
Lee
whole show.
Arnold hired you?
Hi,
He
Lee.
hired me at Wheels,
Yeah.
and he left, and I worked for Kerry Kurlop. And then I left Wheels to go to DTX. Jim Harper hired me there. And after I left there because of the fire extinguisher thing, and that's what you're remembering, which was not even my fault. It was my intern basically blew this fire extinguisher off by accident. And that's
but
when
you took the rap. You went to jail
I did.
for it.
I went to
He did the time.
I did the time, and I
Did the
drove
time,
out
paid his
here.
debt to society, came out and started a new life in Southern California.
Yeah, I drove out here
and stayed in Mexico.
in a
All
reasonably
right.
brand new GTI at the time, because when you buy foreign cars in Michigan, people hate you. And then and then he said, "You're going to go drive down to Mexico." I followed Billy Bones because I actually was hanging out with Billy Bones the other day. I followed Billy Bones, brought a video camera with me because I had to remember how to get down to the station because it's across the border.
Right.
on top of a mountain.
Did the video camera help you to find your way in the beginning? Did it work?
My buddy John Mosier, who you probably remember, he was the guy that came with me. He ended up being Julian Lennon's tour tech,
Wow,
guitar tech.
I got to meet Julian Lennon once.
Yeah, Julian basically brought him out on the road. So I've known John forever and a day. He's like one of the
You
coolest
know
guys.
what the weirdest thing
But
about that place was? Because we were broadcasting over there. In Tijuana, there are no street signs off the main.
Is that right? I have
Boulevards,
never been
yeah.
to Tijuana
There are,
yet.
but you have to know what you're looking for.
No,
And
no,
they
there
were-
aren't.
No, trust me. I go down there every day. There are, but you have
No,
to.
Do you
there
live near
are
the
not
border?
up where
No, no, no.
91X was.
No, where 91X was, there is, but you don't know where to look.
Where the corners of the buildings.
The corners of the buildings,
Yeah, bullshit.
put in tile in 1912. That's the difference. So that being said, John videotaped as we followed Billy. So his little Toyota was in front of us, and I basically kept watching that video over and over again over the weekend, so that when I went down there, it was ingrained in my head how to get to the station. And John came with me the first day and videotaped me on the air for the first time, playing "Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic." That was a library.
You
kind of thing.
learned quicker than most. I had to follow the jock ahead of me for a week.
Really?
A week before I could figure out how to get up there. Because there are all these wacky turns, and you got to know where you're going. And, oh, yeah, by the way, make a slight left where the dead dog is on the corner.
That's-
the dead dog that was covered in lye.
That's how they talk in Milwaukee, man. I had to be in Milwaukee from 97 to 98, and I swear, everyone's got a story there, a long story about their history.
About dead dogs.
Yeah, exactly. And how to get, 50 miles through the snow to some cabin somewhere.
I don't understand why I guess there are no municipal services up on the hill where we were. So a dead dog there's nobody to come take it away. So they would rather just pour lye over it, and let it sort of.
Well, same thing. I don't know if you know this, but in Michigan, off I-75, there was a German Shepherd that got hit one day, getting close to October, November, and it got thrown off the side of the road, and it was basically in the weeds, and it started decaying, and then the snow came, and it preserved it for almost the whole 6 months.
Fossilized.
And then it started going back. But every time I drove by there, because I was up and down the freeway all the time, you could just smell it in its various stages of whatever it is.
Wow.
So it's just recycling. I mean, the worms came and the maggots and the flies. It's like it's no big deal.
It just happens out in the middle of a neighborhood someplace. In Tijuana.
You just don't know where it is.
What's funny though is that later on, Michael became like a human GPS nav unit for Tijuana. Like I thought I knew my way around some pretty funky places because the operators that were on duty with us, in other words, for every gringo from across the border, there had to be a local Tijuana, Mexican native
engineer.
There had to be an engineer with us. They worked in 6-hour shifts.
Yeah, the guy who has the license to run the transmitter, and if the Mexican FCC shows up, you technically would walk away from the studio, and they would be able to take over.
Because we're technically not allowed to be down there.
It's like a
There's
pirate
no
radio.
such thing, by the way, as a reverse green card. So
there is now.
There is now.
Yeah,
because
you might have ended up there, right?
Yeah. Well, they said to us, look, if you get stopped, and people get stopped in TJ all the time because the cops do what they do, and there's a lot of tours. They said to us, look, here are your instructions. If you get stopped, do not tell them you work down there. Do not say you're down there for business because you work there, because that's technically illegal, and they could haul you in for that.
I've met
just
people
say you're
who do exactly
but
that.
But you know what? It didn't really matter because we did. We all got stopped. We all had piles of bumper stickers with us. And really, sometimes you give the cops some bumper stickers and you're on your way.
That works.
Yeah, it works. It was fine.
There was at one point, the first week I was there, I got pulled over and I had $25 in my pocket. The police officer, who's probably long since retired on my $25, took the money and let me go. And then 2 days later, another $20 disappeared out of my pocket to one of the lovely police officers. And so I said to Billy, I go, dude, I cannot afford to work here. This is ridiculous. It's like that's going to be like $50 a week. I'm done. And he goes, don't pay the cops. And I go, what do you mean don't pay the cops? I don't want to go to jail. And he goes, no. What you want to do is you want to tell the cops to take you to the police station. You will pay the fine there. And, of course, I'm thinking Billy is an insane – he's a Vietnam vet.
Wow.
I'm thinking Billy's insane. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So I said to him, I go, why do I want to go to the police station? He goes, because at the police station, the cop, one, has to pay the real fine, and you have to sign the piece of paper, and it's about $1.50.
Wow.
So I go, okay. And he goes, secondly, the cop is not going to take you to the police station because he's not going to make any money from you, so he'll just let you go. So the next week, same thing. Because you got to remember, I was at this point bleach blonde, driving this Volkswagen GTI with Michigan plates on it until I got the California plates. I was suspect. So I would get pulled over.
No, when they saw your plates, the MI, they thought the MI was Michoacan.
Michoacan. No, it's
the state
Michigan.
of Michoacan.
Yes, where the best tortillas come from. But anyway, the point was I got pulled over the next week, and I said to the cop, take me to the police station. I'll pay the fine there. He goes, oh, no, you can pay it right here. I go, no, I'd rather pay it at the police station. I need a receipt. Oh, no, you can pay it right here. I go, no, like take me to the police station. He goes, just get out of here. And so basically from then on, it never happens. So then I learned from you guys to carry a brick of stickers because 91X stickers were like gold down there.
It was like money. It was actual money.
The black stickers with the yellow or white
Yeah, it's
letters?
been the same for 30
years. That one. That
30-something years. And then from then on, once you started doing that, because at that point I bought the Jeep, and the Jeep was more recognizable than the GTI, then I would get pulled over, Alex, just for the stickers. Yeah. I would get this, and then all of a sudden,
can we have a sticker, please?
No, it was basically, and I look back, and they would wave because they knew me at this point, because after a while, the cops knew what time you got off, and they basically waited for you to come down the hill, and then
we also had little kids from the neighborhood, little kids and teens, knew where the station was down there, and they would come up the hill and come into the studio and ask for stickers.
Wow.
They would actually find their way up the hill.
That's amazing.
And then
How
ask for
much
stickers.
did you really cater to the Tijuana market? Or did you?
No,
was
we
it
didn't.
mainly just San Diego?
Well,
It was, but there were.
you'll take that back in a second.
I will, but we got a lot of requests from kids in TJ going to the request line. You couldn't dial directly up there. You could, but it was an inside line. So if you wanted to call for requests, you had to call San Diego.
Okay.
There was a lot of kids from TJ calling San Diego and asking for songs. There was a version of, there was a B-52's, what was that, Moon 82 that came out? That was big in
There's a
TJ?
moon in
album.
the sky called the Moon.
Yeah.
That one?
And then
I don't
there's
know.
another Moon one on there. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I think on the first album with Rock
Moon
Lobster.
56 or something.
We were just, I don't know, maybe. We were very aware, though, that the kids in TJ liked the station. That became clear.
Okay.
So we knew that. But no, we were playing for San Diego.
Oh, okay. So
and
all
then
the
sometimes
gigs,
beyond.
all the promotions were in San Diego.
okay,
Yeah.
San Diego County.
Here's where I'll correct you. What you don't know is there were so many people in TJ that were listening because it was playing something that was radically different, and the whole rock and Espanol movement started around the same time from bands that wanted to sound
Los
like
Lobos?
no rock and Espanol. I'm talking about
okay.
the bands that formed south of the border.
Oh, okay.
They had Javier Batis. These are the things I've learned since starting my career down there, restarting my career down there.
Mana.
There were alternative bands that were doing covers of Cure songs and Depeche Mode.
Right.
Right, and then they formed their own bands. There's a band called Soda Stereo. Every track, in fact, there's a thing on the web if you look it up. Soda Stereo rips off, and it's basically this is the track that Soda Stereo basically stole from the Police, because the people in Mexico and in Argentina and Brazil and all these places that listen to the rock and Espanol stuff, Chile, all of these bands were basically rewriting Cure songs and Police songs
Because it was new to them.
It was new to them, and it's the same thing. It'd be like when the Beatles started covering Black American music.
Yeah.
Nobody had heard it, but they had, so they came out and did, Lottie Miss Claudia or whatever it was.
Chuck
That's a
Berry
great
songs,
song. Where'd you
yeah.
get? Yeah, exactly. Everybody's ripping off Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
The rock and Espanol things, and then they started developing their own thing where they started really putting a Latin flair to it. And there's a whole bunch of those bands now that do that. And
See, what's
this
funny
is
that we
what I'm
had
doing.
no
at this point.
idea, because we're not paying attention to anybody but us, right? And I mean America,
Right,
That there
right.
was
An international thing going
there's
on.
an international alternative thing happening.
Yeah.
The next generation of Mexican kids didn't want to hear ranchera music and all the traditional stuff. They wanted to hear some rock, and they wanted to hear rock that was a bit different. So they were very ahead of their time, I should say.
I would like to show you, by the way, there's a band that formed in Tijuana back in the day called Tijuana. They were actually just called No. And unfortunately, there was another band called No that took their name. So Tijuana No covered a Clash song that we played back in the day. And because of 91X, Julieta Venegas, do you know who she is? She's a big
I don't
pop
know.
star now.
I don't know.
She ended up becoming basically a big pop star because she was in this band called. So this is them covering the Clash, but it's Spanish Bombs, where they sing it fully in Spanish. Is that too
Hold it up,
loud
please.
for you, Sam?
Oh, he's not on the board. Got it.
So
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
So that's basically taking Joe Strummer's bad English, bad Spanish, and actually singing it. And they were one of the most popular bands. They went through two different singers. Ceci Bastida, who is the singer that replaced Julieta, she's just released an album. She's covered Institutionalized with members of suicidal tendencies. Mm-hmm. And she's also got a cover of Pretty in Pink, which is freaking gorgeous. Mm-hmm. We play it on the radio all the time. Because the influence was there, this is part of what's happening with the station I'm programming now. We're playing to both sides of the border
TJ.
because of the kids that have all met since then.
And this is an
grew
actual
up.
station with a stick, right?
Actual station with a stick. Yeah,
Yeah.
98.9 here in lovely Tijuana/San Diego. And we also have a stick in Mexicali.
But not quite a stick, more like a stubby car antenna. That's what I'm thinking.
My high school radio station.
Your high school radio station.
I don't know,
There
it's
you go.
50,000
Hey,
watts, mofos.
I want to get to a topic here that I think we all know about. Max, you were mentioning this book the other day.
Yeah.
Are you doing any kind of project on any kind of research on this or something?
No, why?
I was curious why you had brought that up, because this is my favorite book of all time.
Well, because it's because of the celebrities paying to get their kids into school.
right. Yale and Harvard.
Yeah, my comment was that if parents want to use indies properly in the right manner, okay, to get their kids added to college, because here's the thing. The rich parents equal rich record labels.
Right.
Their kids are the rich record labels artists, right? And they're trying to get
By the way, real quick, Taylor Swift, her dad is a banker, like a billionaire. Like he's worked at Merrill Lynch, and he financed her way to the top.
Of course.
Continue.
Yeah, it happens. All right. So parents of the labels, their kids are artists, and the radio station, the colleges are radio stations.
Right.
Okay. So in much the way that we understand in the record industry and in the radio biz, that the labels do their own promotion, but they also hire independent promoters to call the radio stations. And they make a lot of money.
Because it's illegal for me to give the money straight to Max, but it's not illegal for me to give the money to the independent who then buys $4,000 worth of commercials on his radio
because
station.
Yale is not going to be bribed out in the open, so they have this middleman.
Right.
So I merely was pointing out that, parents should read Hitmen if they'd like to know how independent promotion works.
Frederick Dannon, not just some underground book. It was put out by Random House, wasn't it?
Do you guys know that I was deposed during that whole period?
I remember something about I remember something about that. That was there was a few that I remember.
It was the Joe Isgro thing.
Yes,
which is
in there.
A lot of great stories in here.
So the last time the government tried to do anything about payola was this big investigation around Joe Isgro.
Right.
And they went on a hunt, and they came out to San Diego because there are a few names that wound up on a list, and then they were following up on these people, and one of them worked at the Mighty 690. So the feds come into town, and John Lynch says to me, listen, the feds are coming to town, and they need to depose a few people around the radio stations. Don't freak out about it. It's okay. They just want to ask some questions. I'm like, okay, fine.
They actually have an office here. So came down
I know. I know where that office is, by the way. But they came to the station. They did the deposition at the station. The weird thing was, and here are experienced, serious people from the federal government. They start questioning me, and it becomes clear almost immediately they have no idea what the difference is between AM and FM. They don't know the difference between the Mighty 690 and 91X.
Well, there's a big audience size difference.
Yeah. So they kept asking me questions that I had nothing. I mean, this is not our thing. Alternative was not.
So how does the radio?
Involved.
How does the song get out of the transmitter and onto the antenna?
It's almost as bad as that.
No, I know what you mean because they don't.
They had no idea. This is not their territory.
Right.
You know?
And unfortunately, radio was always just background to them.
And unfortunately, because the FCC technically is supposed to control the license, and that's what decides can you take money for something, whether it's a commercial and or airplay. Because as we all know now,
plug.
You can buy commercials to promote your songs.
Yeah,
but back in those days, there was nefarious.
But it's less disguised now. It's like in a co-op.
Yeah, it's all like Trump. All the cheating and corruption is out in the open as opposed to hiding it away.
Exactly.
So they asked me about all sorts of people and things and what I knew or heard about all top 40 stuff, and I had no idea.
And once again, was this the FBI or just law enforcement?
It was not. I don't know. It was the feds, and they were doing an investigation.
A
couple of people from the Justice Department.
All right.
That's all they said.
Okay.
And they interviewed just about everybody at the radio station. I knew what they were looking for, I think, person-wise, but I hadn't I was sort of new to this whole thing. And the whole concept of payola and indies and all that, I had no clue.
We weren't being yelled at to play records. We were being yelled at not to play records because we were leaking things all the time, especially in those days.
And I didn't know that till I read this book here, Hitmen.
Yeah.
You didn't know that there was...
I was in radio for 5 years and didn't know any of that.
By the way, that first chapter about Pink Floyd and
another brick in the wall, 79
how it was
80.
kept off the radio because the label didn't want to pay the promoters.
Even though the album was just selling through the roof.
If I remember correctly, it was CBS. They were on CBS.
Yes.
And CBS had, the way contracts work is Pink Floyd had a better contract than REO Speedwagon did. Okay. So if CBS or Epic at the time, REO Speedwagon, Epic would make more money if REO Speedwagon became a hit because they had a better rate of return than they would if it was Pink Floyd, because Pink Floyd had been out on Harvest and EMI and all that. So Pink Floyd basically had a better deal So they didn't care about trying to get Pink Floyd on the air. They just wanted to make more money by getting REO Speedwagon to be a hit. So that whole...
But wasn't the single, they wanted the single pushed to because they were coming to town to L.A.?
But the thing is that CBS, Columbia, was trying to make a point. They were trying to say to the industry, hey, we don't need to do this. We can get records on the radio ourselves.
Yet they were pressured anyway, according to this book.
Yeah. And the book is very accurate.
And the indies basically kept Pink Floyd off and took the money for the REO Speedwagon.
No, they didn't.
They did.
No, they didn't.
They were. Why do you think REO Speedwagon was basically getting airplay?
No.
Because they hired...
Don't point at me.
They hired an indie.
Yeah,
that was where the whole thing started.
Everybody was using
real
indies.
Quick, can we just summarize the indie thing? Because didn't Joe Isgro divide up the USA into 12 regions, and each region was responsible for getting airplay in that? The label would be responsible for getting airplay in each region?
Right now,
No,
the
it
listeners
didn't
are
work that
going,
way.
no, it was 14 and a half. It's like, I don't know. I don't know where you're going with that.
All of that's wrong.
That's all wrong?
That's all
That's what
wrong.
the book says.
And the book was accurate for the time, but he was
That's
not...
what I mean. For this
Joe
time
was
was
not
that
that monolithic. He did not control the entire country and divide it up into territories.
That eventually happened.
There were...
No, with a different group
With
of
corporations.
people. Not really.
With three big
sort of,
corporations.
yeah. There were some big indies later on that were attached to iHeart.
Oh, my God. The song
The music
kicks in.
means-
That means there's 3 minutes left. So we got to wrap it up and kind of just say what we're going to say here. So, Max, what have we not talked about that you want to talk about?
Everything. I could come back every Saturday for 6 years and cover all the...
I would love to. I came up with a list of topics here, but we didn't even get to even half of them. You know?
What's this? What's that saying? Nudity? What are you
What did you say? Music Biz Film?
Biz Film. You made that film, How to Fix the
Look,
Music
I didn't want to. That
Industry.
was all Sat Bisla,
Yeah,
from
I know Sat.
Album Network. He wanted to, the music industry's broken. Max, let's go make a movie. And he dragged my ass to England because there was a convention in Finland, believe it or not. So that got paid for.
By the way,
to go
this
make
song
this
you're
movie.
hearing in the background, this is me on guitar. We were talking about I was left-handed, right-handed. I'm curious, as PDs, would you play this? This is a modern
How
surf.
much money do you have?
It's a modern surf instrumental. Wouldn't it work for San
Wait,
Diego?
do you want to go to college radio or do you want to go to commercial? Is this AAA? Where are we going here?
We have
Active
45
rock?
seconds, ladies and gentlemen, to wrap it up. 45 seconds.
Yeah, but it's been fun, you know.
It's been a
Halloran
blast.
coming back.
Thanks
and
for
Max
having us on.
Tolkoff.
I appreciate
Let's
it.
do it some more. I
will.
You guys.
I'm
You guys
ready.
are Awesome.
I'm
Michael,
going to
you
go down
ready?
to Mattress Firm on the corner here, and then I'm going to go get a sandwich and some pizza, and I'm buying lunch for you
Yay.
mofos.
I'd like a Gatorade. All right.
Coming up next, the wide world of weed on WSRadio.com.